The podcast you're about to enjoy is part of the LOWTREE Studios podcast network. To enjoy great podcasts like this one, go now to the LOWTREEstudios.com. And remember, get to the podcast.
Wreck My Podcast.
One of the lesser-known Christopher Nolan films, we cover Insomnia and see just how long we can go without sleeping on this forgotten movie. This week on Wreck My Al Pacino.
Robin Williams.
Wreck My Podcast.
Welcome to Wreck My Podcast, where this week we're talking about Insomnia because, yeah, you heard that in the intro. I like to be redundant and tell you guys what we're covering that you've read on the title, heard in the intro, and now I'm telling you, Insomnia. I'm here with my guest. She never runs around in the fog. It's Madison.
It's me.
Hello.
Hello.
That's right. It's another Jordan and Madison episode. Gotcha. I'm your host.
I'm back.
I'm your host. They call me the halibut fishing capital of the world, Jordan.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I don't know if that's sexual or what. But
It's always sexual.
It's always. I love the halibut. So we watched this movie, Insomnia. Now, interesting movie. I remember I watched this. I don't remember if it was high school or like right after high school.
Okay.
But this movie came out in 2002, so I didn't see it right away. I saw it a little bit later. But this movie is an interesting movie because it's a movie directed by Christopher Nolan, but most people don't know this one. Like,
Yeah.
I think Memento is one of his
Yes.
movies. And then, obviously Inception, the Batman films, Tenet, Interstellar, all these movies. This is like the only movie I think he's ever made that didn't get, nominated for like an Academy Award or whatever.
Which I could see how it could be.
Yeah.
I feel like this is one of those movies.
I feel like this is probably one of his weaker entries, but it's still a good
It's
movie because
really
a weak
good.
Christopher Nolan film is still pretty good.
I absolutely agree.
We watched it. We thought this one would be fun because honestly, we wanted something a little bit different than what we were doing. We wanted something that would like a little bit more of a thinker, a little bit more down that line of things, a little bit more serious, if you will.
Yeah, that's why we covered Dirty Dancing.
Yeah. Well, after Cover Dirty Dancing, we were like, all right, we need to watch something a little bit more serious. And this one was on HBO Max, and we were like, you know what? Let's watch this because I've now only seen it 3 times. And we both couldn't remember the last time we watched it if we actually liked it. Because I remember the first time I watched it thinking, this is a great movie. The second time when I watched it and I showed you it, I could not remember if I was like, oh, yeah, it held up. Or, man, I must have just been
I remember
novice.
liking it. I do remember liking it, but I couldn't remember the plot line.
Mm-hmm. Which, speaking of plot lines, we're going to get into Jordan Explains the Movie real quick. That way, you guys, if you haven't seen this movie in a long time or at all, you'll kind of know what we're talking about here.
Oh yes, it's time for Jordan to explain the movie quickly.
Two cops from LA go to Alaska to solve a murder. It's the time of year where the sun doesn't go down, so there's a lot of light out there. Al Pacino doesn't play by the rules. He's one of the cops from LA. He's got some IA problems. What does that stand for? It stands for internal affair problems. And so his partner is going to cut a deal so that he doesn't go to jail. There's a fog moment where they're in the fog and Al Pacino accidentally shoots his partner. Now the question is, did he mean to shoot him? Was it by accident? I don't know. That's the real question going throughout the story. So now Will, Al Pacino's character, lies about it because he thinks it was an accident, but he also doesn't want to go through all the drama of what's happening. He's trying to catch this dang killer. So this is where he stops sleeping because of the guilt and has to try and cover up what he's done. So it's now this cat and mouse game because the killer calls him and starts messing with him, being like, I saw what you did.
Yep.
So now it's Will trying to cover up what he did, but still catch the killer. The killer trying to blackmail Will.
Yep.
And this whole big deal. So now the killer makes a deal with Will that because he saw him shoot his partner, that he'll help him get away with the murder. But now there's this crazy web of lies going on. All the while, up-and-coming cop from Alaska, Ellie, is putting all the pieces together and finds out that it was Will who actually took the shot to kill his partner, not the killer, like he said earlier. She tells him that it confronts him about this, says, I'll throw away the evidence to keep your name clean. But he says, no, you need to stay true. You need to be true. And then he ends up going and dying at the end of the film while also killing the killer. They kind of take each other out. And that's the end of the movie. Fade to black. So this movie has a lot to it. It's kind of like
it's really hard to condense.
It's very hard to condense, and I wanted to like kind of keep it, because there's this whole like film noir side to it, but set in Alaska, and this whole thing of it being kind of like dark but also light at the same time.
It's very interesting.
And there's like it's kind of a little hard to follow every now and then because you're like, is he helping the killer? Is he setting the killer up? Is he actually guilty? Did he actually mean to shoot his partner? And that's the real question that kind of goes throughout. It's like, even at the end, he's like, I don't know anymore. Like, did I see it was him and I still took the shot to save my own skin to keep him from cutting this deal that's going to, like, wreck my reputation back in L.A.? Right. Or was it actually an accident? But then he really tries to cover it up really quick. There's, like, all this kind of doubt going through your mind, even in the main character's mind and stuff. So it's a very interesting movie. Now, what did you think this time around rewatching it? Because we were saying that, you know, we had watched it, we couldn't remember if we liked it, but what did you think this time?
I still really liked it. I think it's a bit slow, to be honest. I feel like at the beginning, they don't come out and directly say anything about like the whole AI investigation. Like even that is kind of like
Internal Affairs, IA.
Oh, sorry.
No artificial intelligence
IA.
in this movie.
Sorry. When they're talking about it, they're not really being direct. They talk really fast. You're like, wait a minute, like what is even happening? And then like you kind of feel the disorientation too because they're like, oh, it's 10 o'clock at night. It's still light outside. Like you're kind of in it with them, and then like you're trying to figure out like who's doing like what is even happening. Like it's a little hard to get into at the beginning, I feel, but it's worth it at the end to see like how it comes around. Yes. It's very interesting.
It is an interesting movie because it does, and also this is one of those movies Robin Williams plays the bad guy.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Whenever you see a movie like when Jim Carrey is a serious character or Robin Williams is a serious character, it's like a fish out of water. You're just like, oh my gosh, this is like, I can't take my eyes off of it because it's fascinating to watch how good they are when they're not being even comedic.
The acting is very, very good in this movie for sure. So this movie is it's based off of another. So you know how Funny Games? It was like a German film, and then they made it an American version.
Correct.
This was another country's film. I wrote it down somewhere, and I want to say it was.
We're just ripping them off, huh?
Well, it was. Oh my gosh! Oh, Norwegian. It was a Norwegian film.
Okay.
And so someone else took the screenplay and rewrote it, and I think the guy was involved who wrote the original as well. So this is a remake of a Norwegian film, an American version. Now, they're Americanizing it, obviously, because it's like the cop system here is much different than other countries and everything. You know, how we do things. So the acting is good, but sometimes the plot gets a little convoluted.
It's a little
because
hard.
of that.
Yeah, I could see that.
So if you're a huge fan of like cop dramas or crime dramas, it's right. It's there. It's right there. But if you're not, it could be a tad bit hard to follow what's going on.
It's a little difficult, definitely. Until the stuff kind of like comes out all the way, then you're like, okay. And I feel like that's why it's one of those movies you need to watch again, because you're like, okay, now that I know what the heck they're like even hinting at, like I can kind of get a better understanding of like what's even happening. Yeah. So I feel like that's why I liked watching it the second time.
Now, what I thought was funny about this movie is the action has a little bit to be desired.
There's not very
much. And it's like, if you like the type of action where two older gentlemen run around Alaska.
Yeah, it's not like that.
Like, it's literally Robin Williams and Al Pacino.
But this is the thing that I like about it, is that the action, which is I'm going to sound like such a douche saying this, but like is more with their mind. Like they're like manipulating each other and like outwitting each other and like challenging each other. And I feel like they do a really good job of making you feel like the good guy, bad guy, without them having to like punch each other and like.
But what's interesting
really
too
violent.
is they also relate to each other.
Oh, absolutely.
Because a big point of this movie is
But that's what I'm saying. It's
Robin Williams' character is trying to convince Dormer, Al Pacino's character, that when he killed the girl, it was an accident.
Right.
And he's like, just like you accidentally killed your partner.
Right.
We're the same.
Yep.
And it's like this whole idea of like they're trying to outsmart one another, but they're also trying to prove to each other, one, that Robin Williams and him are the same. 2, Dormer is trying to say, no, we're not the same.
Right.
So it is very much like action of the mind.
It is absolutely fascinating. Like, the part when they, like, kind of are in cahoots together where he's like, okay, like, you're a suspect. They're going to bring you in. Like, talk about this. Don't talk about this. And, like, it's kind of giving him tips. And then Robin Williams' character comes in and kind of goes off script, like,
he
very
talks
quickly.
about the one thing Dormer told him not to talk about.
Yes, it's like he is able to flip the script and, like, really, like, just that whole scene I love.
It's a great tense scene.
It's amazing. Like, they do such a good job.
It's also a great scene, too, because then Al Pacino gets, like, super mad at him. And then, but the cop is like, you can't leave. Like, he's talking to you.
Yeah.
So then Al Pacino flips it to make Robin Williams not want to talk to him, to get him to be able to leave so
and
he
then
can go do what
it.
he needs. And
Yes.
it's like, they're both just trying to outsmart each other.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's what I really like about this movie.
Yeah.
Like, the writing is, I personally find it very good.
Now, here's my question. Did it wreck your Al Pacino? Because did you think Al Pacino was acting as well as Al Pacino can act?
Okay, this is the thing which people are going to, like, be like, oh my gosh, get this girl off the podcast. This is the only movie I've ever seen Al Pacino in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have no other context of what Al Pacino acts like. I've never seen Scarface, never done any of that.
Yeah, I felt like he kind of phoned it in a lot of stuff here.
Really?
The high intensity scenes was great.
But
I
do you
feel like
feel like he
everything
was-
between that, I was just kind of like, I feel like...
But you don't feel like he was phoning it in because he was supposed to be tired?
Not phoning it in like I'm tired. Phoning it in just like I can feel that you're not really committing to like what's going on right now.
I see what
and
you're
I think
saying.
it's supposed to be he's playing the I'm a guy from LA and now I'm in this small town in Alaska. I'm very flippant and this and that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he was going for that, but it came off to me a little bit like unless he was really engaged in like some type of highly dramatic scene, it just felt like he was kind of just like
interesting.
the background.
Honestly, I wish I had more to contribute, but
Okay.
I don't know what he's in.
Well, I don't think this wrecks my Al Pacino only because I am not a huge fan of some of his other movies. Like
Oh,
I've seen
really?
Scarface, whatever. I'll say hello to your little friend. Just get out of here.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know, I'm not the biggest Al Pacino fan.
Oh, I see.
So I think this is one movie I like him in, but it's not because of him. I think it's never because of him. Normally, it's the movie. So, like, if I wouldn't say I like or dislike Al Pacino, because I dislike Al Pacino movies, I like Al Pacino movies. He's never the constant in it. It's always the plot or the premise that's
I
the
see.
reason I do or don't.
I see.
So he's never making it or breaking it for me. So I feel like I just enjoy this film. And knowing, I honestly didn't know this was a Christopher Nolan film until this third viewing.
Yeah, me neither.
I've never paid attention to the, I guess, directed by. I don't know why I never paid attention to
Right.
it. It shocked me. And you made a mention.
I did.
We were watching, and halfway through you go, this reminds me of, like, it looks like Memento, and you said one other movie. You said it looks like Memento and something
Yeah,
else. And
I
was
don't
like,
remember.
Yeah, I was like, you know, Steven Soderbergh is an executive producer, and that might make sense why. And then when we saw it was Christopher Nolan, we're like, well, duh. Like, you hit it right on the head.
It
It
has
was-
that very, like, interesting feeling. And I feel like even the whole, like, I don't want to say, like, vibe. I'm so bad at, like, describing it. But, like, just how Memento, like, has a twist, but it's not a twist. And, like, that whole thing, I'm like, that's very much the vibe I was getting from this
Yeah.
movie. So I was like, this feels like Memento for sure.
Yeah, it was very much so.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Do you think that Dormer actually meant to kill his partner? Like, do you think he actually saw him and took the shot, or do you think it was an accident?
It's hard. I feel like the first time I watched the movie, I thought for sure he killed his partner. Now that I watched the movie a second time, I have a lot more doubt about which one it is.
If you had to pick one or the other, what would you lean towards?
I would say he didn't mean to.
I was
but this
gonna
is the
say-
thing that I think personally, which I'm going to maybe contradict myself right now. So when we find out a little bit more about Robin Williams' character, it's the idea, like, was he, like, I don't think Dormer premeditated the murder.
Yeah.
But I think he did murder him. Like,
Well,
he
yeah.
took the shot,
It was
It
the
was
bullet
already
was meant for
hazy.
someone else, but
but he...
it was also improper protocol because when you're in situations like that, you shouldn't be taking shots.
I think that maybe... Yeah, he definitely didn't premeditate it, but he took the shot, just like how in Robin Williams' case. He didn't mean to kill her. Like, he didn't plan that when she came over, he was going to kill her, but he punched her, and then, like,
and then she
it went
got
from
scared,
there.
and he got scared and kept
So,
going down the line.
Maybe I'll
and-
contradict myself. Maybe I do think he killed
Okay,
him.
I don't think he did.
Okay.
And the reason why is because I think that, like, he was so, like, normally they say like, oh, if you're like worried that you're insane and you think you might be insane, you're probably not insane because you're cognitive enough to know that. I think the fact that he's worried and did I mean to? I don't know. I feel super guilty. I think more the reason he was trying to cover it up was because he was already under suspicion. And the whole premise is if he ends up being taken out, all the people he put away were going to be back on the streets.
This is the thing. I think that he operates under the idea that the ends justify the means. We see that he doesn't play by the rules, and like I think that since he didn't want those people to be back out on the street, we already know he'll do whatever possible. So what is the big deal if he kills the partner that was going to rat him out? I feel like I could see him being like, look, this is just the next step. Like, he's already gone to extremes, we know, which I won't say exactly what they are.
We can say they are. He planted evidence on someone.
He planted evidence, but then also he's going out of his way to change the bullets and do all this stuff. So I'm like, it's not like he's really a clean, nice guy. So is it impossible to think that he could take a shot? No, it's not impossible.
I don't think he meant to kill him, but I think when he did, his brain was just like, man, I can make this work.
Well, the thing is, too, is that he doesn't actually say to anybody, oh, no, I didn't kill him. It was the killer that did it. The cop that's interviewing him says, so this is what happened, right? And then he goes, yeah. So it's like he was even like, I feel like in a shock, like he was still trying to process, did I mean to do it? Did I not mean to do it? And then when the cop was like, well, this is what happened, he was like, yeah, I think so. Like,
I think that what gives it away is that the intention wasn't there from the beginning, was the fact that when Hilary Swank asks him at the end, like, did you mean to kill him? He goes, I don't know anymore. I don't even know.
Right.
And I think that he's starting to believe that he meant to do it because he hasn't slept for like 7 days and he's literally going nuts and hallucinating.
See, I think the opposite. At the beginning, he was going out of his way to be like, look, I didn't do this. And now he's like, had time to kind of be like, okay, like, I don't know, maybe I did. Like,
and I think that's what means the intention isn't there. It's the fact that, like, as if
it wasn't premeditated.
It wasn't premeditated because, like, he would have been able, like, it wasn't like a thing where he's admitting to himself. He's kind of like, it's a revelation to himself. If he did mean to kill him, he's like, it's even a revelation to me.
Right.
You know, so that's why I don't think he meant to, but he definitely was bad at working the system to try and make it seem like an accident.
I think the only reason that makes me think your side too is at the end, he could have let her throw away the bullet. And he didn't. No. He said, no, like, stay good, like, don't do it. So I'm like,
he realized the ends don't always justify the means.
I think at that point, that makes me think that he was like, no, like, let me fall on my sword.
But then here's the next question, because again, this is a movie that ends before we see how everything pans out.
I know.
Do you think Hilary Swank's character actually turns in the bullet?
Yes.
Okay.
I do think so.
Because she puts it back in the bag, but she puts it away. She still has time to think whether or not she's going to turn him in.
I 100% think after that point, I feel like the final thing was like that blessing where she was like, look, I can do this. Like, I'll do that. And he was like, no. And she's like, okay, because I don't want to follow.
Well, I think the biggest thing that turned Al Pacino's character and why Hilary Swank would turn it in is because that bullet is the only thing saying that the girl's ex-boyfriend wasn't the murderer.
Absolutely.
So there's an innocent person who's locked up for this murder.
Yeah.
And that's when Al Pacino starts going crazy because he's like, look, covering up my partner's murder, but getting the killer. But now, in the grand scheme of things, an innocent person is being put away. My whole thing is I'm only putting away bad guys.
Yeah.
So why would the dude who literally killed the girl I let walk and this innocent kid is now going to jail? He couldn't reconcile with that fact.
Well, I think, too, at the beginning, like you said, like, you think, like, oh, yeah, it could have been an accident, right? I accidentally killed my partner. This guy could have accidentally killed this girl. But then as he gets to know the guy, he's like, okay, no, this is not.
Well, he even says, too, like, you accidentally killed her for 10 minutes.
Like, it took you 10 minutes to beat her to death. Like, that's not an accident.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think he kind of gets to a point where he's like, okay, this is dangerous. Like, and then kind of at the end scene, like, he hurts Hilary Swank, Robin Williams' character. So then it's like, okay, like, you're going out of your way to, like, do more damage. So I'm like,
because again, there's that scene at the end where Robin Williams invites Hilary Swank over to get some letters, and he opens a drawer and leaves it open. That's the girl's dress so that she sees it. He did that on purpose to have an excuse to kill her.
Absolutely.
Like, that wasn't an accident. He knew where it was. He left it open.
He knew what he was doing.
And that's why he could tell Dormer, like, she saw the dress. We have to get rid of her. And it's like, no, now you're finding reasons to kill people.
And I think that's what Al Pacino's character, before we even know who Robin Williams is like, okay, this person, like, took their time, like, cleaning the body's nails and doing all this stuff. Like, he wasn't rushed. Like, he got away with this. Like, this kind of power is not something that people do once. Like, even if this is his first time, this is not going to be his last. It's going to happen again. So I'm like, I feel like at the time he was a little bit clear, but then once Robin Williams' character started kind of like messing with his head, then he got a little...
Well, one of the original ideas in the screenplay that got changed was that Robin Williams was going to act... There was going to be a killer that Dormer and his partner were looking into in L.A., and the reason they were coming out is because a similar murder happened in Alaska, and Robin Williams was going to be the serial killer who was killing girls in L.A. and then came out here to kill girls.
Oh, interesting.
That got switched up, which I like how they switched it
Yeah,
up. I feel like it would have been
think
too
that
like
would've been-
paint by numbers.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I definitely like this a little bit more.
I agree.
Another question for you, because I remember the first time I watched this, there was like this huge revelation to me that when so Al Pacino's constantly like trying to struggle to sleep, and he's trying to like close his windows because it's always like bright and the sun's just shining through.
Yes.
And the hotel like lady comes in and she's like, "Are you doing okay?" Like they're complaining about noise next door, and he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "It's just so bright in here. Like, how does anyone sleep in this town?" She's like, "It's dark in here." He's like, "No, it's bright." And she flips a light on, and it's just like blinding bright now. So like we're watching and we think it's bright with him because they've lit this place like it's bright.
It's all we've seen.
It's all we've seen. And then we find out, no, he's in the dark, and it's really his guilt that's keeping things bright and not letting him sleep and stuff. Did you think that was as crazy of a revelation the first time watching it? I thought that was like such a huge, like, I was like, oh my gosh, that was so crazy. He's been in the dark this whole time.
At that point, like, you're kind of like, he's not, like, I do think it's a revelation in, like, the sense that, like, you realize, okay, he kind of is losing his mind because she comes in, it's like, no, there's no reason that you shouldn't be sleeping. Yeah. So then you're like, okay, it's definitely the guilt. And that's when he has a moment and he shares with her. I feel like that's a big moment for him where he's like, okay, I got to tell somebody, I got to talk to somebody. So I do think it's a big moment, but I just don't think
thought
it's
that was like a huge twist when I saw
I don't
that.
think it's anything crazy.
No, I don't know why I thought that was such a huge twist when I was like 19.
I definitely love that
movie.
moment, though. It's a good moment.
It's a cool moment.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the info of this movie real quick here. Came out May 24th, 2002. It had a $46 million budget.
Wow.
It grossed 113. Okay. So successful enough.
Yeah.
You know, mostly filmed in British Columbia. There was some shots of Alaska done, but like it was mostly in the British Columbia area that was filmed. But like the British Columbia area side that's closer to Alaska. So it's like similar topographies and geographical areas and stuff like that. So it looks similar. We said directed by Christopher Nolan, a big name in the game.
Huge.
I mean, huge name. Executive producer was George Clooney.
I know, we saw that.
So
we were
random.
like, what?
What was George Clooney doing executive producing this movie? And then Steven Soderbergh, which is another big name in the production arena.
Yeah, I didn't know him.
Al Pacino plays Will. Al Pacino was in The Godfather. Yep. Like we said, Scarface, Carlito's Way. Big name actor. I'm sure everyone's heard of Al Pacino. We have Martin Donovan played his partner Eckhart. He was in Ant-Man. He was also in The Haunting in Connecticut. It's a face you would probably recognize, but not in a lot of stuff you know. We have Hilary Swank, who played Ellie, $1 Million Baby, P.S. I Love You, the next Karate Kid.
Oh, there you go.
And then also The Office.
Yes, I told Jordan, I'm like, this is my favorite thing. But I was going to say, now you have to answer the question.
I don't think she's hot.
I don't think she's hot either.
Yeah. The question isn't, is she attractive? The question isn't even, is she hot? The question is, would you do her?
No, he said that's not the question.
Oh, the question isn't,
because
would
Jim
you do
is
her?
like, if she came over and whispered in your ear, like, I want to kiss you. Now tell me, is she hot?
Yeah, and Kevin's like, the question isn't, would I do her? The question is she hot?
Yeah,
to Kevin's
she's not
point,
hot.
He'd do anyone.
Right.
So that's funny. I don't think she's hot. I think she's attractive, but I don't think she's like hot.
No, I don't think she's hot
either. So we have Nicky Katt. He played Fred. The reason I wanted he was the cop in Alaska who was like the second in command, the one that was with Ellie a lot of the times, who was in the interrogation room.
Yes.
Did you recognize him? What he was from?
But I don't know what he's from.
So one of the band people in School of Rock that the drummer boy goes and hangs out with, and he's like, "Well, we're just hanging out in the van." That was him.
Okay.
So
that's it?
That's all I knew. That's all.
Oh,
his
well,
face
maybe
I
I was
recognized,
wrong then.
and I was like, "Oh, that's where I was like
that's so funny.
drawing him out from and everything." We have Jonathan Jackson. He plays Randy, the boyfriend who is innocent that gets put away. He is from Tuck Everlasting.
Yep,
he plays
he's
the main character.
heartthrob.
Something Tuck, whatever his first name is.
Yeah.
Nathaniel Tuck. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know. He's also was in a few episodes of Boy Meets World. He's the kid that Topanga goes on a few dates with, like in like the 4th season or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there you go.
What do you mean she's with Corey the whole time?
No, not the whole time. So Robin Williams, he plays Walter Finch. I mean, come on, everyone knows Robin Williams.
Do you even need a list?
I don't even need a list here. I don't even need a list.
Top of the list, flubber.
So the cinematographer, his name is Wally Pfister. He does almost every Nolan film. So that's why a lot of these films look similar to you and stuff, because the cinematographer is like the same guy. So you have the same director, you have the same cinematographer.
Yeah, same team.
It's going to be very aesthetically cohesive. So I have some fun facts.
Fun facts.
What is facts? Baby, they're fun. They're fun. Oh yeah. What is facts? Baby, they're fun. They're fun. Oh yeah.
My throat is starting to
It's
give
starting
out.
to go out.
Starting to go out a little bit. Starting to hurt a little bit here. So Christopher Nolan wrote the final draft of this screenplay himself.
Interesting.
Yeah, pretty cool. This is the same year that Robin Williams starred in 1 Hour Photo, another movie, like horror-ish film. He plays a killer.
I didn't finish that one.
Did you not finish that one?
No, that's the one with the memory, right? Memory
No,
cut?
that's the final cut.
Oh, sorry.
1 Hour
Sorry.
Photo, Robin Williams plays a guy who's like, he develops photos at like a Walmart, and he gets obsessed with this lady and her family. And then he ends up like going to their house and breaking in and like kidnapping people and stuff like that. It's pretty good, actually.
I was thinking of the wrong one. Sorry.
No, it's a pretty good movie. Maybe we'll cover it on this podcast. I like that movie. So Dormer, that's the last name of Al Pacino's character. Dormer means sleep in Spanish.
How on the nose.
Right? Yeah. Oh, it's like how Vader means father. Huh.
What?
So Robin Williams lost his sobriety during filming this movie. So
What do you mean?
so he was sober during this time, didn't drink, didn't do drugs
like
or anything.
he had issues before?
And he fell off the wagon because he was so like everyone was so isolated in Alaska during the filming that it like drove him nuts, and he started drinking again.
Was that like publicly known at the time that he was dealing with substance abuse?
Yes,
and stuff?
ever since he's been in the public eye, people
I did
have
not
known,
know
which
that.
is I think part of like he's dealt with a lot. Like
I did not know that.
a big depression.
I knew the depression part.
But
I
like
didn't know
this
about
was
the
a lot of like
substance abuse
vices
part.
because of his depression and stuff like
That's
that.
so sad.
Yeah. So he fell off the wagon during the filming of this. I mean, I don't blame him. That was a very isolated area. That's like crazy.
Yeah, but okay, yeah.
Yep.
I see that.
Like I said, based off of a Norwegian film by the same name. Now, here's some things they changed from the original film. In the Norwegian film, you know, in this one, Al Pacino shoots the dead dog to get the bullet out.
Yes.
The dog is alive in the Norwegian
Oof.
film, and he shoots the dog and then takes the bullet out.
Okay, no wonder.
Don't need that in a
You can't hurt
movie.
animals or people think you're awful.
Remember when Al Pacino scares the dead girl's friend, takes her to the dump and all that? Same thing, except he actually grabs her crotch and sexually intimidates her to get answers.
Well, which is funny because when she is kind of like being a little like forward, I kind of thought he was going to scare her like that because she was... I don't want to say she was asking for it, but she was kind of being like,
she was
oh, where are you going to take me? I
and-
thought he was going to take her to the site and be like, don't be forward with older men because this could happen to you. But he didn't do that.
No, he was pretty much trying to scare her into...
So I remembered that incorrectly.
Yeah.
I thought he was trying to be like,
No, when she
saving
was
her.
doing that, he was kind of like, oh, God, this girl needs like
Yeah.
to have someone put her in her place. Because
Right.
like, you can't just be going out there throwing yourself at these crazy men.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing that changed is the hotel clerk. So you asked me, there's this moment, like you said, where the hotel clerk and Dormer, they like talk about like, is what he did bad?
Correct.
And then the next scene is she's like asleep in his bed and he wakes up and leaves and you're like, did they sleep together? It's like, no. She just like fell asleep in his room.
I didn't think they slept together, but I thought it was weird that the employee would be sleeping in his room.
So that girl and Dormer have a kind of a flirty relationship in the Norwegian film.
Yeah.
But it ends with him trying to rape her.
Dear Lord.
So
why?
the Norwegian film is a lot darker than this film is.
Why would he need to rape her? That makes no sense.
Because Dormer in the Norwegian film is actually a bad person.
Oh,
which,
okay.
The idea of did he mean to kill his partner then is a lot more cloudy because in the American version, he's a good guy that maybe did a bad thing.
Yeah.
In the Norwegian version, he's a bad guy that could still be doing bad things.
I see.
Yeah, so that's just a lot like... a lot darker, which I feel like
Interesting.
other countries' films are a lot darker. Like when you watch like if anything made in America, they kind of sugarcoat things sometimes a little bit more than they do in other countries.
Well, I think too, like
Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I hear that the original like Swedish version is like way harder to watch than the American version.
I think what's interesting is that in America, we don't show, like, sex is like the worst thing we can show.
Yeah.
But show all the violence in the world, it's not a big deal. Where most other countries is the other way around. So when you show something sexual, it's like a really frightening thing or something like that. Like the violence aspect of it is like shocking when they show you that, where I feel like in America it's not as big of a deal.
So the last fun fact I have here is that the film originally had the ending where Dormer lived, and like he got shot but he kind of lived, and Ellie's like walking him off the set. I wouldn't have wanted that. I wouldn't have liked that. I think he needed to die, and with the realization of like it's all done now, like I can finally sleep.
The only reason I feel like it would have been cool if he did live is because it's not as heroic for him to be like, don't throw away the bullet. It's all good because I'm going to die anyway. Right, I feel like if he said, no, don't throw away the bullet, and knew he was going to live and have to deal with the consequences, then that would make me think a little bit more that he's a good guy.
Yes.
The fact that he is like, just let me sleep, and then like goes to like die. I'm like, well, your decision to have her not throw away the bullet isn't as heroic.
It was more for her than it was for him.
Correct.
And it was more dramatic that way.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's better because
why is he being so dramatic? He's just going to sleep.
If you let him live, I feel like it would be kind of a cop out.
Yeah, I understand that.
Oh, Hollywood, gotta let him live.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I thought it was more realistic.
And I think too, kind of like we were talking about how like Dormer's met his match in Robin Williams' character.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep forgetting his name. But like the
Walter
fact
Finch.
that they take each other out and then they both die at the end, it's like it's a continuation of that. Of their parallels. Yeah. So I feel like
a lot of this movie is parallels because, like you said, there's a lot of parallels between those two characters. There's the parallel begin in the beginning where Robin Williams escapes by going under the floorboards of the cabin, and Al Pacino goes under the floorboards of the cabin to get to him to kill him at the end. So like, there's all these mirrorings.
Like the getting underneath, he gets trapped underneath the logs and stuff. It's
under the logs. He hides the gun under a floorboard. There's a lot of stuff where it's like this motif kind of running through, but then Robin Williams and Al Pacino kind of mirror each other, and there's all these scenes that kind of mirror back and forth from different perspectives. So
100%.
It was good. I feel like from anyone else doing this movie, masterpiece. Christopher Nolan, that's like a B. You know, like he is so good at his movies and storytelling.
So you're saying like compared to the other ones?
Yeah, I would say if this was someone else directing this film, an A. If it's Christopher Nolan, a B.
Yeah.
It's still a good movie. I just feel like to his standards a little bit further down.
I just feel like if you have never seen this movie and you're interested in like the whole drama, like I'm telling you, like we've already shared the plot line, but the scenes, watching them together, like
the intense
it's worth
scenes
it
are great.
Just for that. And I feel like for a murder mystery cop thing, it's not very violent.
Well, it's like we just watched Doubt. And that movie by no means is like, a thriller. But the scenes where they are...
so tense!
The scenes where Meryl Streep and Philip Seymour Hoffman are like having
it's amazing.
Conversations. It's so tense. And you're just like, this is what you watch the movie for. You watch it for these scenes here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Abso-freaking-lutely. It's so good. So I feel like for that reason, I would still recommend it. Absolutely.
Oh, I would recommend this movie. 10 out of 10 would recommend the movie for sure.
Yeah.
I'd say, go in with tempered expectations if you know it's a Christopher Nolan film, thinking that it's going to be like something like Interstellar or Inception or something like. It's a little bit less heady than those ones, which is nice.
Correct.
Easier to grasp
Much
a little
more down
bit.
to earth.
Yeah, less sci-fi and everything, which is nice.
Yeah,
but,
I agree.
Yeah, so we would both recommend it, but that's the end. That's the end of the podcast. We're doing a little bit shorter one this week.
Yes.
Kind of giving everyone's
Jordan's
ears.
throat is going
My throat's
out.
starting to go out, giving everyone's ears a little bit of a reprieve here for that. And so go check out wreckmypodcast.com. That's where you can find everything we do. We have our Redbubble store there with merchandise. We have our Patreon store, or not store, but like Patreon page. You can give us money. We'll give you things like little extra content or some rewards. We do raffles every month. It's a lot of fun. We have an Amazon link you can use. Also, our Instagram. Go ahead and follow that to see what's going on. But
also, leave a review because I feel like
I forgot to say.
I feel so like, oh my gosh, nobody likes me as much as Cam, Joe, and
well, no one's
Gregor,
left a review in a long time because we've had the same listeners for like a long time.
Sure.
Even though our numbers are going up, it's like our core base has already kind of left all their reviews. So if you're like a newer listener or haven't left a review yet, get this, guys. And you even mildly like this podcast.
Right.
You leave us a review, we send you a sticker for free. It's super easy. It's a cool sticker too. Either you can get the Nickelodeon Splat sticker or you can get the one that says Wreck My Podcast in the Sega and Nintendo font. Like, come on. Even
you have nothing to lose.
You have nothing to lose.
Seconds.
It's free. I'll write you a little hand note. I'll draw you like your French girls. It'll be great. It's just gonna be
now you're promising
a stick
too much.
figure. That's all it's gonna be.
Of course.
But yeah, I forgot to say ratings and reviews are definitely appreciated. That helps us out a lot. That's actually I would prefer more than like going to our Patreon and giving us money. Give us a review because
it takes 2 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, because it takes like no time and we give you something for free. And, you know,
it's a win-win all
I want our
around.
listeners to get some cool stuff. So there you go. All right. Well, thanks, Madison, for listening.
Of course.
For
listening to
thanks,
you talk.
Madison,
Yes.
for being on this podcast. Thank you to our listeners. We love getting wrecked with you. We'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Wreck My Podcast.